Our scripture this morning is from the book of Matthew. Jesus is teaching. This is how you are to pray. God in heaven, hallowed be your name. May your reign come. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today the bread of tomorrow, and forgive us our debts as we hereby forgive those who are indebted to us. Don't put us to the test, but free us from evil. If you forgive the faults of others, God will forgive you yours. If you don't forgive others, neither will God forgive you. Ancient words from our tradition for our present day understanding.
Well, thank you all for being here. And this is good. We have people sitting in the middle. I was like at home for 5 months. Just needed some space. I needed to, get away. And so I'd watch online, and like usually there's nobody in this middle section. So it's like there'd be like a lot of people over here, a lot of people over there, but you couldn't see that online. So this is good. We actually have people in the church. So today we're going to talk about forgiveness, which I don't think there's any topic that makes people feel guiltier than forgiveness. If you've just been abused, you've just had somebody take advantage of you or hurt you, and you come to church and the minister's, saying if the eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. What we're talking about, this is spoiler alert, is a process that takes a whole lifetime. This is not a one-time deal. And it doesn't usually happen quickly. It doesn't begin with feeling forgiveness or love for other people. So we'll look at the steps and realize that sometimes we can do it, sometimes we can't, but every inch we move in that direction makes it a better world. At least that's what I'll be contending today, and you can decide whether, once again, I'm full of it. I saw a picture, I guess yesterday. James Tallarico is a member here. He's also in the Texas legislature. And there's now, thanks to the state of Texas, a wanted picture of him. Which is funny, except for at some point that stuff becomes real. All of this fascistic stuff that people are playing around with, and we start laughing because it sounds so stupid, is like Russian roulette to the Republic. At some point, those bullets start going off, and you can see that. Donald Trump has cut funding for security in Washington and then used the increasing crime rate to justify him seizing the city, overcoming the Democratic elected leaders. He's wanting to redistrict Texas, as you probably know, watering down the vote of the population that is brown or black. I can't think of anything more un-American than gerrymandering. And I realize that Democrats do it too, but we've all got to stop. How do we love people and yet resist the evil they would do to other people? How do we protect the oppressed from the oppressor without dehumanizing the oppressor? Because if we fall into hatred, that's their game and we're not going to win it. Your human heart is what's going to guide you through these next years. Your compassion, your love, your sense of humor are all things you don't want to lose. Those are your beacon home. The church privatize the message of Jesus. To the extent that you don't get the political impact when you just read it. You don't realize that you're talking about a socialist here, an anarchist socialist. That doesn't mean that you have to be a socialist, but it means you put people ahead of property or you're not following Jesus. People shouldn't get arrested for treating other human beings equally. A lot of times we see Jesus as naive and he's aiming way too high for us. But they were in a much worse situation than we're in. I'm not saying we won't get to that place. But God didn't come up with the cross. The church made that up. That God was angry, so Jesus had to die. Rome came up with the cross. Empire came up with the cross. What Jesus is resisting is oppression. All oppression of every person. To join the movement of Christ, you don't even have to be Christian. Case in point, we have a Buddhist here who believes in the same compassion. In this congregation, there are atheists who believe in the same compassion. That's the point. This book is written by the disciple Matthew. To realize that Matthew was a tax collector is very important. He was a traitor to the people. He had sold out to the Roman Empire. But there has to be a place for people to come back to. If we cannot forgive people who've made a tragic mistake in the United States, if there's no fire escape from that mistake, then there's no hope for this country. There has to be forgiveness and healing. But there's a price tag. We can't cooperate with the oppression of any person. So, we're starting on a sermon on forgiveness. I want to reiterate that it doesn't start as a feeling, and you can't do it perfectly. Jesus gives us an ideal. He's not naive, but he's giving us sort of, like when we're building the building, there's an architect who's got this pure design, and then the contractor comes along and says, we can't build it there because it's limestone. We can't build it there because there's a tree. Jesus is talking about a pole star to guide your life. It's bad advice sometimes. Like, don't worry about your clothes, don't worry about what you eat. Well, you better a little bit. Right. But the point is, don't let that trouble your soul. Have a place, an inner sanctum inside of you, beyond the storm. Let's look at the passage that's here. Just this last little place. Isn't it weird? Jesus teaches the disciples prayer, and then the punchline is to forgive. Isn't that strange? You have the disciples' prayer. Oh no, that's the Dhammapada. Could you go back to could you be Christian for just a little bit? Thank you. Do you see why everybody gives me a hard time? Because thank you. Forgive our debts as those who are indebted to us. Don't put us to the test, but free us. For if you forgive the faults of others, God will forgive yours. If you don't forgive others, neither will God forgive you. Isn't that strange? That's at the end of the disciples' prayer. That's the new covenant. And you may never hear that in a church. But Jesus isn't a good bully chasing the bad bullies. He's saying Christianity, the essence of it, is not believing in God, it's believing in love. The essence of Christianity is not believing in God, it's believing in love. To the extent that if you forgive other people, whatever this being or process is that creates the cosmos, will drop the charges against you. Now, obviously, this is poetic. But think about if Christianity believed that, how different our history would be. To not fight over something we don't really, you can't know a mystery. God is a mystery. You cannot become an expert on mystery by definition. I was the worst theological student of all time at Austin Presbyterian. I have an allergy, a psychic reaction to talking about the mystery as though we know what we're talking about. As poetry, it's great. I don't have any problem if you treat the creeds like hymns, like songs, like poetry, I'm there. But when you make definitions of the infinite, you've done a contradiction in terms that you cannot get around. When I was in high school, I ran across a philosopher named Eric Hoffer, which some of you may know, but he's pretty old at this point. He was a longshoreman who just kind of did philosophy as he. This is talking about, I don't know if he believed in God or not, but he was talking about this idea that Jesus saying, love your neighbor as yourself. He says, the remarkable thing is that we really love our neighbor as ourselves. We do unto others as we do unto ourselves. We hate others when we hate ourselves. We are tolerant of others when we are tolerant of ourselves. We forgive others when we forgive ourselves. We are prone to sacrifice others when we're ready to sacrifice ourselves. The first reason we forgive is so that we can leave the past. When we're caught in a grudge, it's like we're trapped in something that happened a long time ago, or at least it happened in the past. And we find ourselves emotionally stuck there looking at our present lives. And we feel this wall between us and other people, a wall between us and anything joyful or happy. Forgiveness is letting go of the past so you can come into the joy of a new day. Again, you don't do that in a fell swoop. But every inch you move towards that being here now will change you and change the world. The second insight that I think is there in the story is, let's look at the next, you'll be happy, this is a Buddhist text. This is what I have to work with. Bunch of Christianity is not the only religion that has a kind of Sermon on the Mount type text. This is the Dhammapada of Buddha, and it's beautiful. It's one of the great treasures of the world. So is the Bhagavad Gita. There's around the world, there are lots and lots of people that teach us how to love. Buddha says, the mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They all are mind wrought. If with an impure mind a person speaks or acts, suffering follows them like the wheel that follows the foot of the ox. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind wrought. If with a pure mind a person speaks or acts, happiness follows them like their never departed shadow. They abused me, they struck me, they overpowered me, they robbed me. Those who harbor such thoughts do not quiet their hatred. They abused me, they struck me, they overpowered me, they robbed me. Those who do not harbor such thoughts still or quiet their hatred. Hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is a law eternal. Do you recognize that quote? My guess is that Martin Luther King took the Dhammapada when he was in prison. Because that's the quote. That's from The Strength to Love. Hate cannot cast out hate. Only love can do that. Darkness cannot cast out darkness. Only light can do that. I love that image that when we let this kind of storm take place in our mind, unhappiness follows us like our own shadow. We cannot have a hateful mind and be happy, peaceful people. Which means the people that we resent so much are already in hell. Donald Trump has more money than any of us can imagine. He's the most powerful man in the world. And he's one of the most miserable figures I've ever seen. He stays up at night doing tweets on people that have said things. If we love, we're in heaven. If we hate, we're in hell. I don't think either one is a place. I think they're states of mind. So forgiveness means letting go of the pain. We're never happy when we hate somebody. And if you think about that enough, you realize that you don't want to do that to yourself. No matter how much of a creep the person has been, you don't want to pump poison in your bloodstream, which is what that stuff is. Let's look at the definition of, could we switch the slide? I forgive you for... See, I knew it's going to come back to get me. Whenever I do a sermon on something like that, it's like I have to put it in practice. I don't want you to know what a hypocrite I am, so Definition of forgive. This is one of the words that's used there. The word carries a sense of letting go or releasing something, whether it's a debt, a burden, or a person. It's just cutting off something that's hurting you, that's imprisoning you. And again, we've privatized the message. When Jesus starts off his ministry by saying, I've come to preach the year of God, that's Jubilee. He was declaring the year of Jubilee where you redistribute the goods. Where people have blown their life and they're in poverty, they're released from the poverty. If they've lost their land, the land is restored. If you take the politics out of what Jesus is teaching, then you have to fill it in by making God a creep. Right? You have to say the cross was an angry God punishing Jesus, or a very powerful devil, and you got to... I think Paul used some of those images to help people with dying religion get out of the trap they were in. But what the church has done is give us a God that we can't love. We can fear, we can obey. But how do you love somebody who tortures people for all time? You can't. To be in the church means to join a movement that gives itself to the whole world. Forgiveness also means letting go of all of the definitions that separate us from other people. It means having a part of yourself that isn't American, that's a human being first. That isn't Christian, it's a human being first. That isn't a capitalist, it's a human being first. Jesus came to heal the world. Not just get people in heaven, but to heal the world, to make it on earth as it is in heaven. Every time we forgive other people in this sense, we heal the world, we heal ourselves, and sometimes we even heal other people. When the topic of forgiveness comes in, I hope you won't feel guilt, because it's hard to be a human being. And there's some times when this is just impossible. We're too hurt, we're too angry, we're too frustrated. But when we come to ourselves to realize that when we cut ourselves free from those things, there's a joy in life that we can't have when our buttons are being pushed by other people. So, forgiveness means, first of all, letting go of the past so you can come into the new day and enjoy the beauty. So if you're caught in a grudge, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, come back to the present moment and realize that this is your true life. To let go of the pain. We can't help it when something is hurting us, but we cannot replay the tapes years and years later and re-injure ourselves more than the person did. Then finally, we can let go of anything that gives us tunnel vision, that cuts us off from our human family. Because the church is a community that's given itself to the service of the entire human family. I want to close with a quote. It's by Buddhist, so y'all will be, amplify it. This is Jack Kornfield. I know a lot of y'all love him. In the end, only three things matter: how well we have lived, how well we have loved, and how well we have learned to let go. So that's my understanding of the text. We'll take a moment for you to think about how you would understand these words.